following podcast contains spoilers and words like and We watch the
Hello, everybody. You're with me, Dave, and him and Billy. We watched the thing.
Sure.
How are you, mate?
Mate, I'm excellent. I had my last day in the office today, kicking into some long service leave. I mean, I'll still be working, but only doing one job instead of two. So hopefully some
luxury.
more movie visits.
Excellent. Just in time for Indiana Jones 4.
Oh, mate, could not be more thrilled. And how you been, buddy?
Yeah, it's busy with work, but yeah, otherwise good.
And you've got your first official podcast guest spot coming up.
Yes, I'm joining our good friend John Amenter and co over at The Pint.
That's awesome.
Recording Extraction 2.
I've not seen Extraction 1, but I've heard such varied things from so many different parties. Some people hate it, some people love it. Was it you who posted this week that I don't want to give spoilers away for, what you're going to talk about over there, but was it you who said Extraction 2 is better than John Wick 4?
Amongst others, several people have made this claim, and it is in fact true.
I mean, I'm going to throw myself under the bus here. I've only seen the first John Wick, and I didn't love it, so I haven't bothered with the rest.
Yeah, I don't worship at the John Wick altar. I think they're perfectly fine action films. They've got some great sequences, but I don't buy into the whole world building that went on after the first one. Really never engaged me. I thought it was all a bit silly. So they're perfectly fine films. But yeah, the first Extraction's not brilliant.
Yeah,
but it does have some of the best action I've seen in many years, and the second one just ups the ante on every front. So
nice. Well, we're not here to talk about Extraction or Extraction 2 this week. What are we talking about this week, mate?
We're talking modernisations.
Yes, we are. Modern retellings, adaptations of previous films or books or what have you that have been brought into the modern era.
Indeed.
Is that pretty... how did you go making this list? Because I actually ended up finding this much harder than I thought I was going to. And I accidentally at one point had a film in there that then I later realised, oh no, that doesn't hit the brief at all. How did you go with this?
Yeah, it was quite tricky. I thought there'd be more to draw from. I didn't struggle to make 5, but there weren't as many to pick from as I thought.
I had the same thing.
The only sort of caveats I put on were that it needed to be modern, not just modernised. So, sorry if it might appear on your list, but I ruled out, say, Magnificent Seven, for example, because even though it's a few hundred years more modern
than Samurai
Kurosawa,
it's
not present day. So I kind of that's the that's really the only.
I went the same route mostly. I have one that you might question me on, but it depends how you define modern. We'll see what happens. This is going to be fun.
There's quite a few things where someone's remade another film and brought it into the present day. But all they've done is take a film that was set in the 70s, made in the 70s, for example, and they've made a version that's set in the 90s and made in the 90s. That's not a modernisation. That's just a remake.
You might be describing one film on my list, but we'll see how we go.
Of course.
Because I agree. I found this really hard to make. Do you think then that we're going to have any crossover?
I guarantee it.
Okay.
Or you're not the man that I think you are.
All right. Well, who do you want to kick us off this week?
I think I kicked off last time for one of these, so why don't you go first?
All right. My number 5, I'm going to start with the one that I think is probably the most questionable in terms of the brief, even though my love for this movie, I would actually have this higher if I was going by...
Tommy Boy's not a Shakespeare remake.
Not on this list. I'm talking about John Carpenter's The Thing, which...
Okay.
Yeah. It's, set in the 80s, remade in the 80s from obviously a very classic monster movie. I love my monster movies.
Of course.
And I love The Thing. And I think that this is modernized enough. I don't think that this is just a straight, okay, we're going to take this story from, the 50s and, update it. Like, I do think that some of the sci-fi elements in this film are definitely modernized. and it has some absolute classic. You think of like the blood test scene, for example, which is one of the best fucking things ever captured in cinema. So I know that this is probably a bit questionable. I'm assuming that this isn't on your list. Did this ever cross your mind? To you, is this more of a straight?
I would have probably ruled it out under the sort of remake versus modernist, but it's so fucking good. I'll let it slide. Yeah. Is it Rob Bottin who's the effects guy?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
fuck, that's so good. That stuff.
It really is amazing work. God, Paul from the Countdown and I did an episode on this. I think only about a month or two before you came on as regular co-host. He must have been one of the last guests I had, and
that would have just been a 4-hour masturbatory.
it really was. And Noosk was furious at me because this is one of her favourite movies, and she was like, I can't believe that you did this with Paul and not me. But I love this movie, and I know that it's questionable in terms of the brief, but I did have a really hard time coming up with 5. So there you go. That's my number 5.
Oh, look, I've literally... I can't remember if I mentioned this on the pod, but I'm sure I've mentioned it with you in chat and stuff. I've been tasked by my best mate's daughter, who's a big horror fan, with expanding her horror education.
Yep.
And what started out as just a list of recommendations is slowly turning into a book. And I was just putting the thing in that only this afternoon.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so good.
It is. It is. All right. Over to you then.
Alrighty. My number 5 is a remake or modernisation of a classic play by George Bernard Shaw called Pygmalion, which has been adapted numerous times. My Fair Lady obviously being probably the most famous.
Yep.
But only slightly less famous is a film called Pretty Woman.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. I rewatched this movie like last year because I had forgotten a lot about it. Do not rate this movie that highly.
This is a bit of a... I haven't seen this in years, so it's a little bit of a nostalgia pick. But I mean, I've seen it, numerous times, as everyone has.
Yeah.
And I just find it fucking... As films about prostitutes changing their entire persona to please a man go, it's as charming as fuck. It's really, really lovely.
I mean, say what you will, like Julia Roberts is, or certainly was, one of the most charming women on earth. Like there was a reason that she was in like every rom-com in the 90s, because she really is charming, especially in this role. I think that as far as rom-coms go, this and maybe My Best Friend's Wedding are my two favourite Roberts performances.
Yeah, the problematic nature of the story in that makes this seem like a Disney film. But this is just, Gear at his peak. He rarely sort of sets foot in this sort of rom-com charming genre, and it works so well against her. You've got Jason Alexander being fucking despicable,
great.
and getting his comeuppance, which is great. And just, there's so many iconic scenes. Hector Elizondo is the mate, whatever he's the concierge or whatever at the hotel, is just the MVP. And just, her laugh when he snaps the jewelry case shut. It's almost cliche by now, but it wasn't when they made this, and it's just a delight. Yeah. And then you've got Roy Orbison over the top. What more could you say? It's fantastic.
Lovely pick. Didn't even cross my mind. This is one of the topics. I spoke about this when we did comic book movies, our top 5 comic book movies, that I have learned to not do research. This is one topic where I should have done more research rather than trying to go off the top of my head, because it was so hard to think of them.
It would have been a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Literally, I did do a quick Google, and there's countless pages out there.
Yeah.
But they all have the same sort of 9 or 10 things, and it's all stuff I'd already thought of.
Yeah,
There were no surprises.
Yeah.
Because most of them are kind of famous for being a modernization
Of
of
course.
whatever.
Yeah.
I thought I might find a few gems that I had, but nothing. So you didn't miss anything without Googling.
All right. Well, my number 4 is the one that I mentioned at the end of the episode last week when we spoke about this topic. It's Bridget Jones's Diary, which is a very loose modernisation, of course, of Pride and Prejudice. Doesn't follow every plot beat exactly, but there's enough of it there that you would class this as a modernisation.
Oh, he's called Darcy.
He's called Darcy. You've obviously got Hugh Grant there playing brilliantly as the Mr. Wickham character.
Yep.
Renee Zellweger at her absolute peak. I love Zellweger. I'm a big fan of Me, Myself and Irene as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm the one guy who likes every
The only
Farrelly
thing I
Brothers
remember
movie.
about that film is when Gary is himself wakes up, goes in the bathroom,
Yeah.
pisses all over the shower curtain.
Yeah. Why
and
am I
then says,
pissing like
why
I
am I
was up
pissing
all
like I
night
spent all night having sex?
Yeah. Great movie. But I love Bridget Jones's Diary. I really do.
She copped so much unfair flack for, they're casting a fucking American when there's so many British. And she nails the actress. You wouldn't know she was American from watching it. So
and I mean, you look at the reverse. Like, no one has ever said boo about someone casting Kate Winslet as an American, for example, because she's fucking great. I think that Renee Zellweger just, she's one of those people who just got kind of pegged as not being great, and I don't know why, because she really is.
And it's such a vanity-free performance.
Yes, yeah.
Like, she's quite comfortable not being skinny, being a normal attractive woman,
Yes.
not a waif. And scenes like when she's coming down the fire pole,
Oh,
a
man.
lot of Hollywood actresses would have refused to do that because it's so unglamorous and so unflattering. But no, she just went in feet first and nailed it, I thought.
And she's just such a wonderful character. Like, to take that Pride and Prejudice story and just go even further with that character of Lizzie is to, make her into this kind of... I hate the sequel to this film. I remember reading a review once that said the difference is, in Bridget Jones's Diary, stuff happens to Bridget, whereas in the sequel, Bridget happens to stuff. And it's so true. It's like she just gets
I don't even remember this. I don't even know if I've seen the sequel. I don't recall it.
It's just over the top, ridiculously kind of slapstick.
Is she in Southeast Asia or something?
Yeah, I believe so at some point.
Doing an Eat, Pray, Love thing? Yeah.
Yeah. I love this movie. I think it's great. I think it's very, very funny. I think it's a really good modernisation of Pride and Prejudice, and I'm a fan. So there you go. That's my number 4. Over to you.
No complaints here. Good call. Alrighty, number 4. All right. Now we have a modernisation of a French classic, being Les Liaisons Dangereuses.
Ah, yes.
Can you guess what I'm about to say?
Mate, I think it's something about liaisons who are dangerous.
But otherwise dubbed Cruel Intentions.
Yes. I really, really like Cruel Intentions. I actually have a lot of fun with it. I think you cannot top this cast for the 90s. Like, it's
just absolutely on fire.
Whatever happened to Ryan Philippe?
Well, much like Freddie Prinze Jr., I think they both ended up being homebodies for a while.
Yeah.
But this is peak post Buffy for Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think this was. She may have even still been in Buffy or just out the
I think
door of it.
she would have been. I'm trying to think back to when this came out, because Buffy ran much later than I always remember it. I think that Buffy ran until about 2007. This was definitely earlier than that.
Yeah, because there's 7 seasons of Buffy, and it started 99, 2000-ish. So you're probably about right.
Yeah.
And you've got very young and pristine Witherspoon.
Yeah.
And Selma Blair, who I have nothing but love for. I don't know. Have you seen the recent documentary about her struggles with MS?
I haven't. No, I have heard about it though, but I haven't watched it yet.
That is an amazing doco, and just absolutely heartrending stuff.
Yeah.
But I came out of it with just the world of respect for her.
Yeah. Right.
And I'd already been a fan of her from back in with this, and
yeah.
What's that that other comedy. The Sweetest Thing, I think it's called.
Yes, I remember that movie. Yes.
With Thomas Jane and her and a couple of friends. Yeah, anyway. But Cruel Intentions.
Great.
Not only
soundtrack
did it
too.
win MTV's Best Kiss, quite rightly so. Amazing soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's the
brilliant
movie that
soundtrack.
introduced me to Placebo,
Yep.
who I love to this day. And I just think it's a really smart modernization
Yeah.
because it fits seamlessly into that sort of New York yuppie set. The story fits perfectly into that scenario. And I think, as you said, the casting's amazing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to get talked about much these days for something that was one of the biggest sort of hits of the year when it came out. It's sort of slipped off the zeitgeist a bit, and no one mentions it much.
If you want to talk about this movie, hit up Emily Higgins from Tasteless. She would always be down to talk about this movie. I was messaging her just recently, actually, speaking of modernizations, because I know that she is a massive fan of the 2014 version of Annie, the musical. And my kids have recently become obsessed with it.
Does
and
that have
forced me to watch it the other day. It's fucking atrocious. So I was messaging Em about it. Jesus, it's bad.
Is that got like, I want to say Jamie Foxx or something?
Jamie Foxx is the Daddy Warbucks character.
Yeah, fuck, that's awful.
Cameron
It's
Diaz
really
is
bad.
Miss Hannigan. It's so bad. But Em, for some reason, she loves how wild it is. She's like, oh man, Rose Byrne trying to sing. All right.
Wow, God, awful.
Over to my number 3 then. My number 3 is another, rom-com adaptation of a classic novel, The Scarlet Letter.
No, I told you we'd have crossovers.
Oh, here we go. Because, of course, Emma Stone, she's wonderful. I actually really like Will Gluck as a director, and I'm, of course, talking about Easy A, which I think is...
Such a good film.
It's hysterical. It's great. It's really funny. It's got heart. This may be one of the first things I saw Emma Stone in. I'm trying to remember how...
It was definitely... I don't know if it's her first film, but it was definitely her breakthrough. This is the one that put her on the map.
She is just so fantastic in this film. Like, rewatching this, it's no wonder she's gone on to have such a bright career, because she's just so effortlessly charming.
Yeah, it's a underrated film. It's my number 3 as well. So we'll be flicking straight.
I was
back
just
to you
going
in a
to
minute.
ask. There you go.
But there's, I would say, 2 or 3 films that are similar a little bit in when they came out, that they were adapting classic novels from a similar period.
Yep.
I think this is probably one of the best of them, but it's not talked about nearly as much as some of the others these days.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is it's weird.
It is weird that this movie hasn't had the kind of staying power that some other films, maybe some I'm even going to talk about, have had.
Yeah.
It is strange to me.
And it's a phenomenal cast. I
Yeah.
mean, Emma Stone you've talked about, but you've got Thomas Hayden Church in there. You've got Malcolm McDowell.
Yep.
Lisa Kudrow, Fred Armisen, Stanley Tucci.
Yep.
Her parents, I just love her parents in this.
Yes.
Tucci and who is it? Who's the mother? Is it Patricia Clarkson? I know she's in it. Oh, but their home life fantastic. Penn Badgley.
Yes.
Now well famous for You and
Yep.
whatever that fucking awful
He's a
show was.
creepy dude. I can't look at him the same after You. and another film with a great soundtrack. Really solid, indie pop. Yeah.
Yeah. No, very good. And as I said, my number 3 as well.
There you go.
I adore Emma Stone, so this was always going to be on there.
Ooh, I wonder if we're going to have more crossovers then, because my number 1...
I would put money on it.
Okay. All right, well, over to my number 2 then. This is definitely not going to be a crossover. Another monster movie. I love my monsters, I love my kaiju, and I'm going with Shin Godzilla. 2014. I have gone. I really thought about going with Godzilla King of Monsters. I didn't, but I really thought about it. But Shin Godzilla is it was the first kind of Japanese reboot of Godzilla, and it is really fantastic. Have you seen this one?
Look, I'm going to offend you, but they do all blur together a little bit. If it's not the one with 11 in it, then or Matthew Broderick, then man. They're all very similar to me.
Wow. No, well this is an author. This is from Toho. This is an actual Japanese Godzilla film. I believe it was 2014. And it reboots the original Godzilla story, but set in modern-day Tokyo. And it takes a lot of inspiration from, a lot of the issues that they were having at the time with, radiation and nuclear power and stuff. Obviously they'd had that huge nuclear issue in Fukushima, I think it was. Yep. And it's really, really solid. It's probably, I think, one of the best Godzilla movies, apart from the ones with 11 and Matthew Broderick.
I'm going to stop you there, and I'm going to say the one with 11.
Is she only in the most recent one? I thought she was in the 20...
no. She's in Godzilla, or Godzilla King of Monsters.
She's in both.
Matthew Broderick's Godzilla. She's Godzilla King of Monsters, or whatever it's called. And she's also in an unspeakably bad film that we're not going to mention. that tried to tie Godzilla in with the main character from Kong Skull Island.
That was fantastic. I loved
that movie. Was fucking detritus. It's awful.
If we ever do movies that are like harshly maligned or something, that's in my list because I love that movie.
You can champion it and I'll be there maligning it.
Anyway, long story short, I'd highly recommend that you check out Shin Godzilla.
Okay.
Even if you don't like the others, I think there's a good chance you'll like this one. And like I said, because it is a reboot, a modern kind of retelling, you don't have to have seen any of the others. Not that you really have to for most of them anyway. But
radiation causes giant monster stomps on Tokyo.
That's basically
that's the backstory.
Yeah, basically. And this one kind of goes back to those roots because for a long time, Godzilla became the good guy. Most Godzilla movies are Godzilla taking out other monsters. This one kind of goes back to those roots of, him
King Ghidorah and all of the nasty monsters that we don't like.
So there you go. That's my number 2.
Big question,
Shin
though.
Godzilla.
Does Shin Godzilla have Mecha Streisand in it?
No. And it doesn't have Mecha Robert Smith either. Although, I must say, Trey Parker's right. Disintegration is the best album ever.
This is true.
All right. You're number 2.
Number two. This is... If this isn't a crossover, you're not Billy and there's a pod person sitting on the other end of this. My number 2 is a modernization of a Jane Austen novel.
Yep.
Called Emma.
Yep.
And it was directed in her debut by Amy Heckerling. And it is called...
Clueless.
Yay!
Number 1. Absolutely number 1 with a bullet. I love this movie. I remember when Topher and I reviewed Emma on the show when that came out maybe a year before last. The episode ended up just devolving into Clueless chat. I ended up naming the episode Emma / How Great is Clueless because that's pretty much all we spoke about.
Was it the Emma with Anya Taylor-Joy and...
Yes.
Yada. Yeah. Good film.
Good film. Not as good as Clueless, though. This movie's amazing.
It's so clever.
It really is. I think more than any other film, line for line, this movie has so much to offer. Like, there are so many quotable moments in this film that, here we are close to 30 years later and they still stick out in your mind.
Yeah, 100%. And when you more than, and this was the one I was kind of hinting at, or one of them when we were talking about Cruel Intentions. Even more than Cruel Intentions, this so cleverly doesn't just take the general premise of Emma.
Yeah.
It's scene for scene, basically.
100%. Yeah,
And dialogue is modernised, but sort of the gist of conversations, that occur throughout the story are kept as well. The script is very, very, very cleverly put together.
I think what this movie does so well is that it takes this classic Austen novel, and like you said, rather than just updating it, it really makes 90s LA a character in this film.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing how close it sticks to the story. I never realized how close it was to Austen's Emma. I always thought it was maybe a little bit looser. But it's like you say, it's virtually beat for beat. And yet it is its complete own thing because of the context that it puts it in. And to me, that's what a great modernization is. It takes that classic story, and rather than twisting it around or anything, all it does is say, hey, this is this story, but in this setting, and look how different and great it is. It is similar to, what The Magnificent Seven did with Seven Samurai, where it takes that classic story and just goes, hey, but look at it, if we look at it from this perspective. Yeah. I love this movie so much.
Yeah. More so, and the other one is so you went, so we know all of yours now.
Yes.
We know your number one. Okay, so I can say another one which I considered
10
was
Things
10
I
Things
Hate About You. Yeah.
But
I thought about that
when
as well.
you compare it with Clueless in terms of, is it just kind of taking a basic premise of something and then kind of doing its own thing, which 10 Things does. And I like 10 Things, but that's really all it does.
Yeah.
It's not Taming of the Shrew in anything other than the most basic terms.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas Clueless is Emma.
Yes.
In a modern setting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I thought about 10 Things and then for the exact same reasons didn't put it on my list. There's a lot to like about that movie. I mean, Larissa Oleynik, I love her. Ever since Alex Mack, I was right at that age. But yeah, you're right. When you put it up against this film, which I think you inherently do, I think I kind of do think
they're
of
the
film,
two.
Well,
they're head and shoulders
also
above.
Easy A. I kind of think of these three kind of all together, where they've retold.
And then you've got a whole
fashion.
bunch of also rans like She's the Man and She's All That are all modernizations of their own Shakespeare or other novels or whatever. But they're not in the same league as those other three.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Nice. All right. So we only have your number one left to go.
Okay.
I don't know what it's going to be.
Believe this isn't even in your five. It's modernization of a novel by Joseph Conrad called Heart of Darkness.
Yes, yep.
And it is, of course, Apocalypse Now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, this didn't even cross. I love this movie. It didn't cross my radar as a modernization. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's literally taking Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which is about Marlowe going into the depths of Africa to find Kurtz. Literally takes that premise and transplants it into Vietnam War.
Yep.
You've got Estevez Sr., Mr. Martin Sheen.
He's great. He's
in his
so
iconic
good.
role.
Yeah.
Going off to change mad as fuck Marlon Brando in literally, I mean, let's face it, the role of his career. I love The Godfather, but this is the most iconic thing he did in his entire career. You've got Duvall. I would say Robert Duvall's crowning achievement.
Yes, true. Yeah.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just so fucking good, this film.
Yeah.
From the opening moments where you've got the Doors song The End playing as Martin Sheen's looking up at the ceiling fan, you're just like, you just sink into your chair and just go along for the ride.
Yeah.
The whole production of this is obviously legendary. You've got a whole documentary about it.
Yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola going pretty much completely off the fucking reservation.
Yeah. Or even Martin Sheen apparently went a bit nuts. I remember reading Rob Lowe's autobiography, which is really, really fascinating, even if you don't like Rob Lowe, because he grew up in Hollywood. He, from a very young age, he talks about meeting Liz Taylor at age 9 or whatever. And he was good neighborhood friends with young Estevez. And he talks about the first time he met Martin Sheen, which was during the filming of this movie, and he was apparently just off the rails, like completely fucked. So it's just fascinating.
Have you seen that doco, Hearts of Darkness?
Yes, yeah. Which, of course, a lot of people will say is better than Apocalypse Now, and I don't know. I
don't know. It's a good documentary, but come on.
There are some great documentaries out there, especially about filmmaking. I love Hearts of Darkness, but have you ever seen Lost in La Mancha?
No, I've always wanted to, and it's never sort of gone across my radar.
Lost in La Mancha.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you and I have ever spoken about Terry Gilliam.
No, we all love Terry Gilliam.
But I know that I think it was you who made Topher and I watch Brazil on the show, right? Yes.
And then you watched Chinatown by accident.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But oh man, you have to watch Lost in La Mancha. It's I think one of the best documentaries about filmmaking. It's so great.
It's one of those legendary films, isn't it? The kind of never happened, along with Jodorowsky's Dune and I don't know if there's a doco about Bert and Superman, but there should be.
That just popped into my head. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go.
But yeah, Apocalypse Now. That was always my number one from the moment I started thinking about this. It's I think one of the best films ever made.
Nice. I can't argue with that. Can't argue with that at all.
Did you have any honourables that we haven't spoken about?
The one that I accidentally put on my list, which I later realised, oh no, that doesn't really fit, is 99's The Mummy, which of course is more of a remake, but it is still set in that.
It's still set back then, yeah. I actually had to do a double take and go, no, that would have fit.
That's exactly what happened to me. It was like one of the first things I wrote down. I'm like, well, that's my number one. And then about 20 minutes later, I was like, oh, hang on. No, it is actually still set in like the 30s. So yeah, no, that's no good. What about you? Any honourable mentions?
Yeah, I came very close to including the Richard III with Ian McKellen. That's sort of like a faux Nazi Germany sort of setting, which is a brilliant film, but I haven't seen it since the bloody 90s or something. So I remember it being brilliant, but it sort of, I can't really include it because I don't remember it that well.
Yeah.
Probably the only other one that came very close was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
What's that a modernisation of?
Homer's The Odyssey.
Right. Okay. If I thought about that better, that may have made the list.
Yeah, I thought that might, just because I know you like Coen Brothers musicals.
I do, yeah.
But yeah, so they're like John Goodman plays the Cyclops. And
that makes sense.
It's basically that. And you've got the sirens singing the Alison Krauss song. And the other one, which I took out at the last minute when we went, let's keep it to movies, not TV. I was a huge fan of a TV show called Revenge.
Me too. I loved Revenge.
Which, when I thought about it, it was like...
Emily Van Camp?
Oh, isn't it just?
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Madeline Stowe.
Madeline Stowe was fantastic in that show.
Wasn't
there also the
Henry
dad from
Czerny
Seventh Heaven, who is a renowned creeper now? He's been cancelled, rightly so. I feel like he was in that show too. But yeah, Madeline Stowe was amazing in that show.
She and Henry Czerny as the kind of couple that...
but because that's a modernisation of Monte Cristo.
Count of Monte Cristo,
yeah,
pretty much. I mean, obviously, it went for 3 seasons or something, so it went beyond the scope. But the premise is literally just the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, great show. Oh man, that's a blast from the past.
We were addicted to that.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
What else? I can't think there's anything. I had Bridget Jones in consideration for a bit. Warm Bodies. Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, yep.
But I'd spoken about that previously, and guilty pleasure. I do like A Knight's Tale.
Oh no, that movie is abysmal.
I mean, part of me hates myself for enjoying it because I can't
part of you is the right part.
I can't stand modern music in a period thing.
Yeah.
When the characters are aware it's playing and they fucking sing along with Queen, and it just that kind of ruins it. But it's other than that, it's kind of fun, and it is because of the Queen soundtrack. I thought it's almost a modernisation of A Canterbury Tales. But
I'm glad it wasn't there.
And I almost tried to shoehorn in the pirate movie again because it starts in a modern setting and then does Pirates of Penzance, but I thought that's a little bit off. And Doctor Who's Christmas Carol.
That was when you told me TV series, I thought that was going to be the one that was there.
Yeah. It was in there, and then I thought I'll try not to include things I've put in other lists before.
Yeah. All right.
Otherwise,
Well, this was heaps of fun. I like doing these kind of different things. Next week we're back to a review though, because what's out next week, mate? I know you're super excited.
It's gonna suck.
I still have only seen Raiders, so I'm really not keen.
We were supposed to binge through all of these to prepare you for the disappointment that is coming in 7 to 10 days.
Okay, well, how about we do this then? Let's leave the new indie till the week after this.
Okay.
Let's face it, I don't think people are going to be like gagging for that review. I think it's going to be The Flash all over again. I think this is going to flop. Next week, let's do a binge of all 4 indies.
3?
No, let's do all 4. Let's do all
There's
4 in prep. Let's do all 4 in one app, and then the week after we'll check out the new one. What do you reckon?
All right. Just for you, because it's part of your education, I will acknowledge the existence of the worst film of all time.
So, poor Noosk, she's going to suffer because I'm going to make her watch all 4 with me this week.
Hey, 75% of that's going to be a rockin' good time. It's just a shame that the rockin' good time's kind of front-loaded.
All right, sweet. Well, that's going to be fun then. So we'll do some classic indies next week, and then some shitful new ones the week after.
Yeah. So are we going to do 3 and 2? We're going to split good and bad, or are we going to do?
Now that's an interesting thought. Let's do that. Let's do the 3 good ones, and then 4 and 5 the week after.
This is kind of like my general procrastination in life. Do the good stuff up and then just push the bad stuff as far away, and then you get to week 2 and you go, God, why didn't I do at least one of them last week?
Yeah. No, this will be fun. This will be good. I'm looking forward to this. All right. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at wewatchedathing.com or wewatchedathing@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under the handle at wewatchedathing. If you want to help support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/wewatchedathing, and we'll catch you next week.
Go give us a 5-star review.